Okay, so our KeyPress event handler was created, and we have the event arguments available to us from the KeyPress event args. So the first thing we need to do is to determine where the event originated. So for example, if the user pressed Enter key when the focus was on the name text box, then we want to move the focus to the address text box, which is the next text box on the form. From there, if Enter is pressed, we want to move to the city text box, and so forth. But how do we find out where the key press came from? Well, that is the sender object that we passed into the method over here. The sender object, as the name suggests, is the element where the event originated. So we can simply do an if statement and find out what the sender element was and move to the next element. So I'm going to create a string. I'll call it text box sender, and I will assign the name of the sender to it. So I will do sender dot, I don't really have anything available to me, or not much. You can see that there's a problem. We don't really have many methods and properties available with the sender object by default, but that's because it's a generic object. What we need is the text box object only. Remember, we are just scrolling through the text boxes. So we can cast the sender object to a text box object. So we can do a cast like this. We have the text box object and cast it to the sender. But you see that it's still underlined because we cannot implicitly convert to string. We still cannot use the dot notation either. What we need to do is to actually encapsulate the resulting object after the cast was performed. And that's simple. We'll simply place it in parentheses like this. So this whole thing is going to be our text box sender, and it is going to be cast as a text box. Now when I do dot, you can see that I have a lot of things available to me. And the one I want is the name of the sender, which you can see gets or sets the name of the control. And in this case, it's going to be the text box control. Alright, so now we have the name of the sender, and now we can check if the user pressed Enter. We don't care for any other key press, we only capture the Enter key. So we'll simply do an if statement. So it's gonna be if, and here we'll use the KeyPress event args to find out what the user pressed. We will use the keychar property of the KeyPress event args. So we will do the e, which is the variable of the type KeyPress event args that is being passed into this event. And when I do dot, then you can see that I have a keychar over here, and it says it gets or sets the character corresponding to the key pressed, and that's exactly what we are looking for. Now it's called E by default. That's basically a standard, but you could call it anything you want. It's just like I said, it's a standard to call these event arguments E. Alright, so here we will check if the key press has the value of 13, because I know that 13 corresponds with the Enter key. You can Google these key chars yourself, but for now just trust me that 13 is indeed Enter key. So if the key char equals 13, or in other words, if Enter key was pressed, then we now will be moving to the next text box. And to do that, we can use a switch statement. So if this is true, then we will do a switch. Let me just move it up a little. And the thing that we are checking is the name of the sender, or the text box we are coming from. So we have that stored in our text box sender. And here we will simply do our cases. So if the case of the text box sender is txt name, which is the name text box, that's how we named it, then we'll move to the next text box, which is the address. So our txt address dot focus will make the cursor move to the address text box. And of course, we will break. The next case is the address text box, which is txt address. And if this is the case, then we'll move to the next one, which is the city. So txt city will get the focus. And let's break. Then there's the state, so txt state. If we are on txt state, then we'll move to the txt zip. And then, if we are on txt zip, then what we want to do is to move to the accept button, because we are ready to submit the form. So instead of going to, let's say, txt name again, we'll simply do btn accept.focus. And we don't have to check for anything else. We only check if the user pressed 13, which is the enter key for the key char. And if that's the case, we will move the cursor along the text boxes. Alright, so let's run it. I'll press Ctrl F5. Here's my form. So let's just enter something and I'll press enter. And you can see I'm moving to the address, now to the city. The state doesn't seem to work. I'll check what's wrong with that. But if I do state and zip, it works. And now I should go to accept. So let me see what's wrong with the city. The city is missing. That's why. I forgot a case for the city. So if the case is txt city, then we'll move to the txt state. That was my bad, but easy to fix. Let's run it again just to make sure. I'm just gonna type a bunch of nonsense. And you can see that now I'm moving to the text boxes and to the accept button as expected. Alright, so now it's working fine. But we still have a problem with the zip code. As you notice, I could still enter non-numeric values, and I only want to allow for numeric values. So let's fix that.